Hi there, it's Fast Action Fridays. This is Kat Sturtz from rockingyourpath.com, and I have two special guests with me today, partners from One Day Business Websites.com. I think I got that right, guys. We have
You nailed it.
Finkeldei here and his partner, Eric Rosenberg. And I'll tell you, the first time I came across Brad in a mutual Facebook group and checked out the website, I went, oh boy, finally somebody who has the same philosophy I do about building business websites, whether you're a little bitty business or whether you're a big business. And that's to understand why you want the website in the first place and what you want it to do for you. And that's going to be the main topic of discussion here. And I'm going to really let the guys fill you in on how they do it. And then I'm going to throw some questions, and they've got some additional information for you. So first of all, Brad, why don't you start? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so my background is, I had a career in IT for 13 years as basically business analyst, and then basically server administration, web administration, and then jumped into the entrepreneurial world about 3 years ago, and have been going ever since then. And several months ago, Eric and I met in a Facebook group, and I threw out an idea, and he responded, and we got to talking, and we're like, hey, we got a lot of personalities, that match up, and he liked the idea of like one-day business websites, and I learned about his background. I was like, well, this guy's got a lot more experience in actually developing websites from the ground up than I do, and I would rather be on the marketing and business side of things. And we're like, well, let's start something and try this out, and it's been going ever since. So yeah, thanks for having us on.
And where are you located?
I am in St. Louis, and Eric is on the sunny side in California.
And I'm here in Michigan, near the top of the thumb.
Yep.
Oh, it even gets better than that. My daughter's up, let's see here. My daughter's up in Iron Mountain, like this,
Yeah.
That's the Upper Peninsula.
I have nowhere I don't know what my hand would look like if it was Missouri.
Eric, what's your background?
Sure. So my background actually had nothing to do with the internet for a long time. Though I built websites as a hobby. It's something I enjoyed. I started actually in high school. I built I don't know if I should be proud or ashamed to admit it was a pro wrestling fan site. I had such a fandom for The Rock. I thought other people should know about him as well. And I learned HTML and CSS, a little bit of CSS. It wasn't as big of a thing yet then. Building websites in high school on something that was called GeoCities, if anyone out there listening remembers that.
Been around a long time.
Thankfully, that stain on the internet has been removed. But,
hey, you got to start somewhere.
We all have to start somewhere.
Two things, because the connection here is just uncanny. I have a cousin who is in pro wrestling here in Michigan, and a daughter-in-law who loves watching it so much. That was her Christmas gift from her own husband, was a subscription to watch it on TV. They have their own channel.
They have a web subscription for $13 a month.
That's what she wanted for Christmas. So
before I moved down here to California, I actually went and saw them live less than a year.
Oh, yeah.
I'm still a little bit of a fan. But I don't have a
Small
website.
world. Small world. And I go back before there was such a thing as the internet as we know it, back to the old CompuServe days. I was a whiz-up, forum operator, whiz-up, building your business on several, and senior staff for several things for CompuServe, the business4.com groups, and the Genie Network, which you guys probably never heard of. It was General Electric's version of CompuServe and AOL before Prodigy. So, all right, so let's talk about websites. Where do people go wrong, and what should they be thinking about, whether they're starting fresh, starting new, or realize they really would like or could use a revamp? Where should people start?
I think the number one thing any business is doing wrong is not having a website. So there's actually a fun story. So I just moved to Ventura, California, a little beach town about an hour and a half from LA. And about 2 blocks from us, there's this little pizza restaurant. It's a little shack. And it's one of the oldest restaurants in the city. Their pizza is fantastic. But I had never had it before. And I was searching online to try to order pizza, being new in town, just moved here in April. And I thought, where should I order pizza from? So obviously I grabbed my phone like any other red-blooded American does now and pulled up Yelp and tried to find the best pizza place around. And they ranked really, really high. And I clicked and they didn't have a website link. And then I Googled and they didn't have a website. So I didn't go there. I went somewhere else instead. So not having a website it's such a problem for any business today. It doesn't matter if you're brick and mortar or a coach or a consultant or an individual or a big company. You have to have some sort of web presence. That's essentially a game changer or a deal breaker for clients like me who could have gone and ordered that pizza, but I went somewhere else instead.
Yeah.
So that's the number one thing is just get out there and get something. It doesn't have to be a $50,000, $100,000 website. It doesn't have to be this overwhelming, horrible process. Thanks to the ease of using WordPress, which people like us all know how to set up. Writing a blog post or creating a page is no harder than writing an email anymore. And if you can do that, you can have a website. Right. So don't let a fear of not knowing how it works stop you from having one.
Yeah, I love that. I agree wholeheartedly. And even if you just start with nothing that's a replication of your business card, you have to be able to be found virtually.
Right. Some way to Google
grandmas
you.
And great grandmas are even using it now,
Totally.
All right, so where do you go from there? We know, so we know we want a web presence, and we want more than just social media because personally, it bothers me with some people dropping their websites completely to go strictly with a platform. It's like, what happens if that platform goes away? What happens if they
Absolutely.
ban you for some way? There's no recourse because it's private business there. What do you do then? I always recommend having a separate site, and driving people, so what's your next advice for them?
So I'd follow on that line of thought and say you have to have your own website on your own hosting that you control and is not dependent on someone else or some other company, something that you own and control, which again is why we love WordPress, why that is all I work in. I mean, there's other options out there that are not WordPress that are noteworthy to mention because they're pretty big. There's things like Blogger, which is where I had started with when I started blogging. Upside to that, it's free, it's easy. You can get your own domain put on there pretty quickly. So it's your own .com, not .blogspot.com. But at the other side of that coin, I've seen websites that broke a Google rule because Google owns Blogger, and their site was turned off. It takes the powers behind the iron Google curtain, one click, and your website is gone. So don't let that happen to you. There's also some newer options, Wix and Squarespace.
Weebly.
Weebly. There's other platforms, and there's pros and cons to those. To me, I'd say the biggest con is they're pretty expensive if you want to have something that's really customized to your needs. Whereas if you have, let's say you're an individual small business owner, for $50 a year you can have your domain and your hosting on using WordPress. So this isn't life-changing money, and if you're not willing to put $50 into your business, you should probably find something else to do with your time. If you're spending all $50, it's not
exactly. I mean, it's part of the presence. One of the things that bothers me is I get clients or prospects who talk about being experts in online marketing or in social media or are dabbling in website designs, and to go to their site and they're not doing things in a professional way. So the appearance is, they've got a freebie site and it's got the ads from the freebie place. And it's like, this is not, if that's the type of clientele you're drawing, or they're complaining that's the only type of clientele they're drawing, or the people who don't want to spend any money, they can't figure out why they can't sell anything. It's like, you got to look at what you're putting out there. There's a reason why I don't have a fancy background here. Part of my background as a certified guerrilla marketing coach is getting things done with the least amount of outlay of money, time, and resources, but still being professional about it. So I put my money into my website and into, my team. But for something like this, I don't need a fancy background,
Totally.
Well, my background's fancy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's in a box. And I showed Brad when I'm doing special recordings, I took the foam that surrounded my studio mic and made myself a little container that fits around here when the farming community right outside my window starts making noise. So
I've seen those. I need one of those. If you hear my daughter giggling in the background through closed doors.
We like kids. All right, so you need a professional appearance online, and it doesn't have to cost an arm and a leg, right?
Right. And yes, and also make sure it's your own domain. I mentioned quickly, sites that can end with .blogspot.com or .wordpress.com or .whatever.com. If it's not your business or your name.com or .something, you're doing your business a big disservice. There's a big debate now on the online community of, is .com really the only and best way to go anymore? And I'd still lean towards saying, yes, it is the best way to go if that's an option. But if yourname.com is not an option, that doesn't mean you shouldn't go get a .net or a .co or a
.me or .biz
.me, .ninja, whatever you're doing. There's so many things now. But get your own your business something. Ideally .com or .net are probably the most widely recognized.
Right.
Again, that's $50. That's if you go to the hosting company that we like to use. They throw in the domain for free when you sign up for hosting, and it's $50 a year right now. So your domain, you're hosting, one package, $50. You have a whole year of your website. And that's the only absolute necessary cost in building a website. Of course, if you want it to be fancy and have lots of features, you can hire people like us, or you can pay for premium themes or plugins or whatnot. But you don't have to do those things to have a website that works. You can figure it out on your own, and $50.
So I know people are going to ask, what site do you recommend for that?
Sure. So I use SiteGround. I've used a whole bunch of different hosting companies over the years. The reason I use SiteGround now primarily is their support's great, their service is great. I've not run into nearly the problems I have with some of the I won't name any by name, but there's some very inexpensive and famous hosting companies out there. Many of them are owned by one parent company, and all of the hosting sites under that parent company, you get shoddy service. If you have a problem and you need technical support, you click the chat thing. It says 45 minutes. Or if you call in on the phone, it's a nightmare dealing with any of it. And your site's more likely to go down or perform slowly or poorly, which will hurt your ranking in Google. Google checks site speed. They check all sorts of factors. And if you have a poor performing site, and let's say you're let's make up an example. Let's say you're a gardening consultant. You help people out with their gardens. If someone types gardening consultant in Google, you want to come up at the top. But if you have a poorly built or poor performing website, you won't show up at the top. Even if you're the best, even if you're the expert and everyone knows that, it doesn't matter if your site doesn't work. You won't rank high and people won't find you and won't discover you. So having good hosting you can rely on is very important and worth the cost, even if it's a few extra dollars per year.
Right. And as your business grows, if you need more, at that point you should have the income coming in to get more. My husband's site, my husband's a professional chef, and he does some catering, and he's doing more online videos and trainings, and we've got the pictures. So it's more file resource has more needs than some of the simpler sites. But
Right.
I know I have a host that I am absolutely in love with. In like 12 years, anytime I've had trouble, it's fixed it within a half an hour, and I know exactly what's wrong and exactly what they're doing to fix it. And you gotta love people.
Who's your favorite?
Yeah.
Yeah. So who's your favorite hosting company?
Well, I have mine through DWolf, but
Also,
and that's what he uses, and that's who my contact is. I don't deal with the big company. All right, so let's go on.
Let's do it.
What do people need to think about? The three of us talked earlier that sometimes people go in with this idea of what they want their site to look like. And to me, that's all about what you want, not necessarily what your client or prospect needs to see from you. So how do you take people through the process of building a website?
And I guess Eric and I can go back and forth on this too. We really start from what they want the site to do for their business. It's great to have it look nice, but like what Eric said about the pizza company, it wasn't there to do anything in the first place. So, like, let's just take the pizza company, for example. Like, it probably, if Eric, were to walk down to them right now and sell them a website, he would do the same thing. Like, what do you want it to do for your business? Phone number and a menu, most likely the two things that people need to have for a pizza shop. Like, let us call you and let us see what we can buy from you. And starting from that point of like what you want your clients or your customers to do once they land on your page is the basis for everything else, because you can have all this pretty imagery and videos and things for people to look at. But at the end of the day, if it's not driving traffic to your bottom line and to what your business is, it's really just, it's a resource that's kind of wasting time and money and energy. Eric, do you have anything to add into that?
No, I'd say that's exactly right. Don't start with pretty pictures and Photoshop and sparkles and blinking things. Start with that end result that you want and work backwards. So, what do you want? Do you want people to, from the pizza place, Brad was right, phone number and menu, the absolute minimum. Maybe a way to order and pay online would be another function.
Map where they're at, how to get there.
Yeah. If you're a consultant, email form, contact form, references, history, the things you want. If you want your customer to be able to buy something from you, you have to give them a way to buy it. Payment options, payment and contact stuff. I'd say are probably the most basic. And they need to be able to get a hold of you and know what you do and how to buy it. And those are, it's any business. There's a great book I read by Chris Guillebeau, the guy. I always never know if it's a Guillebeau or Guillebeau. I think it's Guillebeau, from The Art of Non-Conformity.
Yes.
World Domination Summit guy. I've met him like a bunch of times. I should know his name. But he has a book called The $100 Startup, and it goes through and talks about all these companies that started up with about $100 in startup capital. Most of them, I think the rule to be in the book was it had to be under $1,000. And in that book, he goes through all these examples, and he said, well, what did these businesses all have in common? They're pretty much three things. They have a target market, they have a product they're selling to that target market, and a way to deliver that product. Your website should, if it's a online type business, perform all three of those functions. If it's not an online business, should help in those functions. Because that's essentially what a business is. You need to be selling.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think Eric may have froze there. I think he's stuck in the internet. I don't know.
He'll come back. And what's nice about Zoom is that it sometimes keeps up even though we freeze individually here.
Well, he looks really...
Looks like I dropped out.
There you come back.
There he's back.
You were frozen inside the internet. How did it feel?
It was like being frozen in time and space. If you saw the movie Interstellar, it was kind of like that part at the end.
Sweet.
Or stuck on Mars like the Martian.
There's colors and sounds.
All right. We've talked about how important it is to know your target market, know what your target is, and something for them to buy or get from you, something that you need something to sell to them, or you really don't have a business, and a way for them to buy that, or contact you to arrange to buy that. All right. What about, how do we keep track of those people? What about things like email services, and just how fancy do we need to get at the beginning?
Sure. So in the beginning, you don't need to be that fancy. There's a plugin that I use for WordPress for almost every site called Jetpack. And if you Google about it, you might find some old posts of people saying that it slows down sites.
I was not a fan of Jetpack in the past.
So it's actually been redeveloped over the years and now has content delivery network tools built in. So it actually speeds up your site. Shouldn't slow it down. But one of the functions that this costs $0 is a contact form. You can create a page, click Add Form once that feature is activated, and you have an email form. That's a good way for people to contact you. Doesn't cost anything. Mm-hmm. There are fancier email services. The biggest names out there are ones like MailChimp and Aweber and ConvertKit and GetResponse and Constant Contact and Infusionsoft. There's a bunch of them. A lot of people like MailChimp because it's free in the beginning up to 2,000 users. I used it in the beginning. I had some problems with it, didn't meet my needs, so I ended up moving to Aweber and then ultimately to ConvertKit where I am now. But I'm now paying $50 a month because I've popped through the first pricing tier into the second one. But yeah, $30 a month. That costs in 2 months more than the whole cost of having a website for a year. So maybe for your business that's worthwhile, maybe not. That's up to you to decide. It's up to you to figure out what your best way of communicating and contacting and working with your target clients will be. And sometimes an email list is the best way. I'd say today online email lists are probably the most important marketing tool you'll have, even over social media, because like we said earlier, Facebook can change its algorithm like they did. It used to be you type things on your page, hit publish, and a very high % of the people who hit the like button on your page were going to see it. Now that number keeps dropping and dropping and dropping, and you have to pay Facebook now for people to see it. And your results may vary. With an email list, you're always going to land in their inbox. You're always going to have a way to contact them. So that's the only way you really own a connection to your audience. But that doesn't mean you should ignore things like Facebook or Pinterest or Twitter, depending on what your business is. And you can integrate links to those, but I would use those tools to funnel people into your website. Don't use your website to funnel people out because you don't own those things. You own your website.
Right. And it's also a legal way to email people in bulk. And I made the same journey you did. And I think one of the important points is don't wait to start until you can do everything big and whatever the perfect of the month is. Start and adjust as you go along. I did the same thing. I started with MailChimp. I really didn't care for MailChimp's infrastructure early on to create things. I eventually moved to Aweber, which I really, really liked. And then a few months ago moved to ConvertKit because primarily as a business life coach and a marketing coach, its features serves me and my clientele best. It's not the best solution for everybody, but it is the best one for me right now.
And I felt the same way. I felt like Aweber was, their delivery rates are great and what they offer works well, but they hadn't added a lot of new features in a long time. And I actually left them as they were adding a feature to compete with ConvertKit. But my thought was, well, ConvertKit's less than a year old and they're already doing this. And Aweber, I've been paying you for years and I can't do it. So
you're paying for the same subscriber over and over and over as they're joining to
that was really frustrating, double paying.
Absolutely.
And, no longer double paying.
Yeah, you'd have the same person but in different lists, is that right? And you'd have to pay for both of those?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And MailChimp's the same way. And I'm not sure about some of the other ones. They pretty much are pretty much like that. some of the other systems, Constant Contact, I've had clients and they were fine that first free year, that first low cost year, and then ran into mega problems going into the second year and had to switch everything to another service. And it's like, you don't want that headache either. If you know or think you're going to have a progression and need more, at least look for ones that can migrate from one to the other reasonably well, right? All right. I want to know more about your one-day business website system. What do you guys think you do better or differently than your competitors? And what was one of the things that drew me right into what you do? I like your process. So walk us through your process.
Yeah. We like to, when we decided to work together and create this company, we said we want to make this fun for us, because as part of being an entrepreneur, there's many times where you're working a lot or alone, especially if you're a solo entrepreneur. And I said to Eric, I want to make this fun. Like, I want our personalities to come through on this. And I think that's what you resonated with, with our secret link on our front page. And if people want to go to the website, they can go to onedaybusinesswebsites.com and look for the secret link. It's just a fun little thing.
If you will.
Yeah, our Easter egg. And, that's what made us click together. It's like, hey, we can just banter back and forth and give each other crap and have a good day working together. But our process is basically, it's pretty simple. We sit down with the client first. We analyze what they want, what they actually want their business, the business website to do for them. And then after, we go through that process, we sit down. It's basically, we sit down with them initially, make sure it's a good fit. Are we a good fit for them? Because we don't want to work with, quote unquote, sticks in the mud. We want to work with people that are fun, people that are, creating awesome things in the world. And we want to work with people who recognize they're not website designers. They're not big geeks. They know that their job in the world is to go out and sell things, or that they're, a doctor or a coach or whatever their business is. They know they're good at that, and they're not good at getting on the web and creating websites, and that they're going to spend 40, 50, 60 hours trying to make a website. And all they want to do at the end of the day is throw it against the wall and say, I hate this.
And
so
then they wonder why it's not working for them. It's not converting into revenue for them.
Yep, exactly. So, that's our core client, is someone who knows that they don't want to do this themselves, and they're ready to take their business to that next level and have an awesome online presence that's ready and set up for them. And so after we sit down with them, that's decided, then we go over, what do you want the website to look like? We're going to go over general framework. And then from there, we pick a design day where we actually, we go through a Skype session or a Zoom session just like this. And we have it all set up and ready. We have like the back end and the framework set up. And then in the meantime, the client is getting all of their media and photos and branding kind of ready. And then they send that to us. And then on the actual build day, we put it all together. And by the end of the day, they're ready. Eric, did I miss anything in there, or is there anything else that you can add into that?
That was a pretty great explanation. Yeah. So, and one of those things, we can expand on a little bit, that the client's role, we do the heavy lifting, we do the hard part, but the client has to be engaged. And if they want their photos of their business, and we can't, let's say, we can work with someone anywhere in the world. Doesn't matter if they're in Michigan or California or St. Louis or Sao Paulo. It could be anywhere in the world. So we can't necessarily go to your business. Let's say you want a chiropractor website. We're not going to go take pictures of your sessions and whatnot, but you could take great pictures of your office and send those to us. We don't do the logo, or we can do basic ones. But if you have a logo that you love for your brand, send that to us. We'll incorporate it. We'll build the website around your brand that you already have or that you have in mind, to really bring your online vision to life.
Right. So on launch day, you are not sitting there talking to you two. Like if I'm the prospect, or at this point, I've got some skin in the game here. I'm not coming to you and saying, well, I don't know what I want to offer for my services. What should I offer? You need to have, I myself would need to have that in place before that.
For this specific business, yes,
Which is my business. I help people get to that point, and then I send them to people like you to get it done.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's Brad and I have both done some consulting like that on the side, but for this business, it's more you already have your business, you know what you want to do, and you're ready to rock and roll and get online.
Brad?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there is some, there are people who don't have that, maybe like if they're not to that point, that gets much more involved. That goes into a whole branding experience and what you're, what you want your business to be and everything like that. And I would say to those people, they may or may not be ready for, a newer website. They maybe need to work on the foundation of their business at that point. And then once they've got their, their services defined, then it's much easier and much quicker and much faster to get the website up, because exactly, you're selling pizzas and you need to get, the front of the shop picture, and you need to get some menu items, and you take a picture of Romeo and, flipping the pizzas and whatever else that you need to get done. But if you don't have what you core do defined yet, yeah, you're not ready for that.
Right. Right. And I think that's a key thing that people don't want to expend that time. I mean, it really gets people stuck and making that decision. And it's like, make a decision, you can adjust. If someone like me who has packages that I offer and various trainings, those develop over time based on the clientele that's coming to me. It's not written in stone. And that's one of the nice things about websites is they can change and grow over time. You're not spending, $1,500 for brochures and a product catalog and don't want to change anything for a while because it's all outdated. You can make those changes, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah. You used to see, back in the older days of the internet, you'd see under construction banners and pictures and signs all over the place. At this point, people know all websites are always under construction. They're never done. There's always something more that can be added or changed or tweaked or fixed. And don't let that become your obsession as a business owner, because I've seen that happen and people waste hundreds of hours trying to perfect every little tiny detail on their site. And something I like to say is don't let perfection get in the way of progress. It's good to have a great website. No one ever has a perfect website. Even Amazon and Google. Google hasn't changed its homepage aside from pretty pictures and a couple links since it started almost.
Right.
There's no right and wrong way to do it. There's just the right way right now for your business. And the right way for most businesses is moving forward, not getting stuck on something small.
All right. Well, we have the luxury to take a few extra minutes. If you guys wanted to show us a website, even your own, if you'd like to do that, we can do that. Or, we can tell people how to get in touch with you, which we're going to do anyway. What's your preference here?
Eric, I'll let you shoot from the hip on this one.
All right. Well, we'll do a very quick rundown on the One Day Business website's website. That is a mouthful. I've never said it that way. It's a tongue twister. And give you just a quick once over on why we picked some of the features we picked. We can do that in just a couple minutes if that sounds good with everybody. And I can even share.
Let me ask the audience. The audience says okay.
Okay.
The audience says okay.
Go for it.
All right.
Yeah, because if we didn't, there we go.
I tried to control your screen. You're sharing
see my screen.
Yep.
All right.
There we are.
So one feature that I like to point out to any business owner, a lot of people want a really big logo that takes up a whole lot of space on the screen. Like if you can see my mouse moving, some of them go down like this far in the screen. But there's a thing that's called above the fold. And what that means is what a user can see when they load a site, that's considered above the fold content. And you want to maximize what's above the fold to be useful. One, because it's a better user experience, that's most important. And two, Google actually looks at what's above and below the fold. and your above the fold content has more weight in how you're ranked in the search engines. So what we did, we made this logo really narrow and make this menu bar really narrow, even though it's at the top of every page, because that gives us more room to show off the content, which for us is tired of trying to build your own site. Our one-day solution gets online, in business fast. So that's what we want our site about. It's not about us. It's about the customer. So putting us at the top, us, we're important. They can find us here. And if they want to know about us, they click the team. That's all about us. But the main part of the site above the fold is about the customer. So we make it really easy for them to click and learn more. So, there's one big button on the front. So that one thing you want your customer to do, make that really easy and obvious. So for us, we wanted to get to this page, the process page, where, we do some selling, we do some explanation of how it works, what's included. Pause for a second. Take a deep breath.
This because it's like walking into a nice clothing store and seeing the mannequin with, dressed with an outfit that you would like to wear out of the store later. So you're taking them right into what's possible for them.
Right. So the number one thing we do, build websites. So we say, here's how it works, one click. That's the number one thing we want people to do is find out. They find out how it works. They're excited. Another one click, one option. Let's do it. You click on that.
Bingo, bango.
And then you can buy it, add to cart, purchase it right there on the website without any other needs. But if you have questions, we make it really easy to find us too through our contact link. Mm-hmm. So making it really easy to be contacted, making it really clear what you want people to do when they come to your site. Those are top things. So another thing for the homepage, let's say you do scroll below the fold and you want to see a little bit more before you click learn more. The next big feature on our site, the next thing anyone can do, join our email list. So subscribe, they hear our story, we give them free tips. If they sign up, they get a series of, if I'm remembering right, about a dozen emails that go through all this useful stuff for WordPress absolutely free. All you have to do, put your name, your email, follow our story. So that's the second thing someone can do. So remember, when we talked about you have to make it really clear what your business does and make that that end goal the priority, not pretty pictures and design. So thing one, they can buy. Thing two, they sign up for the email list, which ultimately at the end we say, well, if you want to buy it, here's how to do it. So those are, and again, this link goes to that process page. These three links all go to that process page. Everything is a funnel either to our email list or to buy.
Which is awesome.
I
like that. Now, I can hear some of the people that I know follow the show, and they're going to gasp at the price that they saw on your deal page. My guess is that doesn't bother you if they gasp because not everybody is your client.
Exactly. Yeah. If you don't think we're worth it, which we think we're worth it, we've had customers who've been thrilled with the process. Some people can't afford us, and that's okay. Maybe their website will grow to a point they can in the future. Some people might think it's worth their 500 hours to try to figure it out themselves to save the $1,500.
Don't value their own time.
I want to.
Go ahead, Brad.
I'm going to jump in there with a quick story. One of the first experiences Erica and I had with a customer, a potential customer, was she came to us with this site that a friend of hers said that she was going to build for her. And she went through hours and hours and hours and hours. And, like 2 or 3 months later, her friend came back and said, here's what I got so far. And she was really disappointed with what she was shown. And in that story, what we got from her was that someone was trying to build it really cheap and saying they could do it. And she was really nice and she was genuine about, yeah, I can help you out. And she was trying to do a good thing for someone. But at the end of the day, the business that was supposed to get online didn't get online for 2 or 3 or 4 months because someone else didn't know what they were doing. And so therefore, that person's business spent 2 or 3 or 4 months not doing any business online. and just sitting there. And the other part of the story is the person, it was a coach, and she also had a design background. So she spent, I don't know how many hours. Eric got to see the actual design too, but she put together a very intricate website in Photoshop. And we looked at it and we're like, oh God, this is a ton of work. It was very detailed, and it was not a template. It was her own creation. It was beautiful. And we handed it off to, Eric, what would you call him? Like the geeks of the geek, like a
colleague in the web design industry I've worked with before.
Okay, that's a better way to put it. A colleague in the industry. But he looked at it and he's like, this is a $20,000 to $30,000 website. If you want it to look exactly the way he designed it, because it had to be built from the ground up and coded from the ground up. And our sites get the same look and feel of something that is built from the ground up with special code, but done in a framework so we can do it really fast. And it still looks beautiful, and it looks beautiful on an iPad, an Android, and any device really. We use the Genesis framework, and it just makes any website look, really good no matter what platform.
But they don't look cookie cutter. Mine are all built on Genesis too, and they're the same framework, but they all have their own individual look to them. And if you're not familiar with what the plain vanilla Genesis looks like, or the plain child theme, or the sample theme, or Prose, I'm still a big fan of Prose, even though they don't update it anymore. You don't realize that how easy it is just to change something on one or two places, and it changes all across the site. Whereas in the, quote, olden days with our static sites, to make any changes, you had to go into every page that appeared and find that code, change that code, and
you had to know HTML. You had to know a whole nother language.
Yeah, HTML,
that as well as Russian.
PHP, SCSS. It's like, no, who's got time for that? Especially
that's what we do.
Necessary. Exactly.
Well, I like to think about it, let's say you're at the grocery store, you're walking down the macaroni and cheese aisle, because who doesn't love macaroni and cheese for dinner every once in a while? There's the store brand box sitting right next to the box that says Kraft, right next to the box that says Annie's Organic. You can choose any three of those, and one might be a little better than the other. But they're all still macaroni and cheese. It's the same thing. Same things with websites. Sometimes you get what you pay for, and sometimes you buy the store brand and you're surprised that it ends up being better, and that can happen. But sometimes you get that store brand and you're like, oh, one time I got store brand Ritz crackers and was dipping them in hummus, and they kept breaking. And then I got the Ritz brand and they didn't break. So sometimes you get what you pay for.
Exactly. One other thing I want to point out about the site you showed us, and that's your own site to go to your place, all right, and to hire you, and I think your price is a dynamite price for what you deliver in the end, all right? The process, if that price is too high for you, look at the process, because you've laid it all out there for people to see, this is what to have in place before you start doing it yourself, or even you hire someone else. So there's plenty of value on your site before anybody has to spend a dime or not spend a dime, We
hope to be helpful to people even who don't hire us, because if you're constantly helping people and doing the right thing and your intentions are genuine, people can tell. And eventually, hopefully karma comes full circle and we get customers out of it. But everyone's not going to be our customer, and that's fine. And hopefully we can still be helpful.
Right. And if you can't pay your bills, you're not going to be in business either, right?
Exactly.
Bottom line.
We both have to feed our families.
Tell people how to get in touch with you guys again. Spell out, I'll have it on the replay, but give it to us verbally again.
Yeah, so they can go to onedaybusinesswebsites.com, and then right on the front page you can just click on contact and shoot us an email, and we'll be happy. And this is something we talked about before this. We're happy to anybody who's listening to this right now. if they think they want a website or they know they need their website redone because it's been hacked or it's just looking outdated, shoot us a message right now and we'll jump on the phone with you for 15, 20 minutes and we'll give you our best advice. And if you decide you want to work with us and get it done, we'll work with you. But if not, then, we know that it will come back to us and you'll recommend us to someone else because maybe we made you laugh or we gave you the best advice from people or whatever.
That's a great offer. That's a great offer. All right.
Yeah.
Before we finish up, I know you've got some quick, fast action tips, a few things people can take action on right now, get her done. What are they?
Yeah. Eric, you want to go?
I don't have them in front of me. We pre-wrote them down. I don't have them open.
I'll take over then. Jeez.
No bum.
Okay, so basically, Eric recommends, and I recommend these 3 plugins if you're using a WordPress site for security, for speed, and for SEO. Those are to use the WordFence plugin. It helps against hacks and keeps your site safe. To keep your site fast, using the WP Super Cache site. And to set up your site with proper SEO, so it ranks in the search engines, is using a plugin called Yoast SEO. The next thing, since we're going really fast, is if you're brand new and you're going to get your website up there, I wouldn't worry about a logo. I would pick a color scheme and I would pick a font type that you can use across your website and just keep it simple and easy in the beginning. And then once your business grows, you can go hire a branding firm or, go spend hundreds or thousands of dollars on all that. If you do want a logo, you can use a site like Fiverr.com or Upwork.com and hire someone that can do that. And I know 99designs.com is also a great place. It's going to cost a few $100, I think, on that site, but you're going to get a quality designer. And then if you're really, the DIYer and want to do it yourself, but you also have lots and lots of questions, check out udemy.com or go to YouTube and check out, how to build a WordPress site. And sign up for our newsletter. And, Eric wrote this great how to get up and get online fast process, and you'll get that delivered to your inbox. Did I miss anything?
I wasn't familiar with one of the sites that you recommended for great information for offsite CEO.
Oh yeah, so so there's the site called Backlinko. It's like backlink with an O at the end. That's the way to spell it. And it's run by a guy named Brian Dean, and it is by far and away the best SEO resource for education I have found in quite a long time. There's some great experts out there, people like Neil Patel and Matt Cutts, who've been talking about SEO for years and years. But Brian Dean he came out of nowhere like a year or so ago, and he's now getting millions of visits. He only has like 20 posts or something.
Wow. I wasn't familiar with that one, so guess where I'm going to go check out when we're done here.
Yeah, his traffic speaks to what he's doing. His site, if the first place I'd go, his email list is excellent. He has a post if you're typing in Google called the skyscraper technique. And the skyscraper technique, I tried it on my own site. I made a post on my personal site called personalprofitability.com. And I made a post called 137 side hustle ideas to get you started. That's not the exact title, but that's what it's about. And I put in an infographic. It's over 10,000 words, the longest post I've ever written in my life. It's almost an ebook. And I did the stuff Brian Dean said on Backlinko, and it's now getting about half of the traffic of my entire website that I've had for 8 years.
Oh, wow.
So this isn't like a little bit of traffic bump. This was like changed everything. So Backlinko is fantastic.
Well, I'll make sure and put that link in our follow-up post. But thank you, Eric and Brad from OneDayBusinessWebsites.com for being my special guest today on Fast Action Friday. And this is Kat Sturtz from rockingyourpath.com, reminding you to keep rocking your unique path to success. See you next week.